in all these years that Hubject has been organizing these conferences, one of the coolest parts is how what we are basically doing is trying to look into the future, more or less. So where is the future of electric mobility? Some things we got right, some things not so much, and that's kind of how it works, right? Like, none of us can really predict the future with complete certainty. But what we can do to try and anticipate what trends may be emerging over the coming years is to look at data and to look at past behavior, current behavior, and then we can maybe anticipate what kinds of things are coming up next. And in our next keynote, we're going to hear about some very interesting market research on e-mobility charging, from the consumer perception to charging infrastructure forecasts. And to give you an overview of all that, I'm very pleased to welcome the Automotive Supply Chain and Technology Manager from the e-mobility component research team. Gosh, that's a mouthful. The company is S&P Global Mobility, and let's have a warm welcome for our final keynote speaker of this year's conference. I think he deserves an extra applause. Welcome, Claudio Vittori. Hello.
Good afternoon to everybody, and it's great to be here. It's the first time for our company. It's the first time for me to be here, and I would like to thank you very much, Hubject team, for setting up such a great event and for having us today. As you said, we have a very tough job because we are forecaster, and forecasting always tricky, but we try to support our clients and our partners with our data every day. S&P Global is a relatively new company into the charging landscape, and I'm not relatively, while I'm not, I've been working since 11 years into the e-mobility industry, with most of the years spent around charging, and having worked into several projects about charging across different countries. And my role in the company is to basically transpose what we have into the automotive industry that we provide daily, monthly, and yearly to all our clients into the charging perspective. And the scope of today is to take you through a sort of journey. We will digest a lot of data. I know it's going to be tough because it's the last presentation, so I really hope you can enjoy some of the data. And I'm really lucky enough to have also a pointer, but unfortunately it doesn't work, so you will try to follow me. Next year, maybe I will ask for a ladder that brings me closer to the data. So the intention of today is to look at electrification more broadly, but specifically look into the charging area. And we will look into the electrification journey looking at the topic from 3 different angles. The first one, which I think is very interesting for most of you sitting there, is the consumer angle. So how the consumer are reacting to the electrification in general and to the charging topic. Then we will go into the second topic, which is what we call vehicle in operation technology outlook. This refers to a view a perspective on how the vehicle that will be on the roads, so the park of vehicle for the next 12 years, how they might look like in terms of charging specs and e-mobility attributes in general. And then I will give you a kind of overview on the S&P Global view in terms of how many charging stations will be installed, will be on the ground over the next decade or so. But let me spend a couple of words about S&P Global first. I'm sure that most of you know the brand, especially for the division in the middle, the S&P Global Ratings. If you are here seeking for advice, I'm sorry for that. Okay, if you are seeking for advice, I'm not your guy, because I'm part of what we call S&P Global Mobility, and this is a dedicated division that covers the entire transportation industry. We provide our clients with all the data since about 100 years, and we have a specific division that covers the transportation area, but of course also the automotive division specifically. Just to give you a bit of understanding why we are here and why we are in the business, our company provides our data and intelligence and technology overview to basically all the major global OEMs. You can see the 100%. We have a lot of 100%, I know, but that's a slide. This happens also when it comes to the medium and EV commercial vehicle manufacturers, as well as all the major tier suppliers. From tier 1s to tier 3s, they are basically all leveraging our data to have a kind of understanding on how the market might evolve in the future. Of course, financial companies are also part of our client portfolio, interested, especially now with the electrification wave, to see how the situation might change over the next decade or so. Our division counts about 1,000 professionals working in more than 16 countries and working together with the industry to shape out the future and to understand how the future might change, might evolve across the entire automotive industry, not just electrification. And all our clients can have access to about 1,000 different data sets, very granular, going from the number of vehicles on the road up to the how the supply chain of specific components, such as seats, lighting, cameras, as of course e-mobility components over the next decade, with a forward looking about how this supply chain and technology might evolve. Just for your interest, just to give you a bit of perspective, what can S&P Global Mobility offer to our clients when it comes to electrification? So on the, not sure why, I'm really sorry for that, not sure why it's clicking automatically. Okay, so if we stick on the top, on the upper part of the slides, we can see that our company provides information at the vehicle level, which goes to the nameplate level information from 3 different angles. So on the production side, so where the vehicles are built, on the flipping on the sales side, so where the vehicles will be sold, and then both convey into what we define vehicle in operation. That's the view on the automotive perspective, on the vehicle perspective. And as I briefly mentioned, we do have our components team, where I'm sitting on, that goes deeper into the technology and provides to our clients a perspective on, for example, how many vehicles being capable of 300 kilowatt plus charging will be on the road, how many vehicles with battery swapping or wireless charging technology will be available. That's what we offer. And we are, as I briefly mentioned in the beginning, we are now entering gradually into the charging ecosystem. That's my tough job. I've been asked to transpose the quality we have in the automotive industry into the charging domain. And our offering counts today the vehicle side technology on the VIO, which is where that's something that I'm going to share with you in a few slides, which can be considered as a sort of demand arising from the vehicle for the infrastructure players. We also have our charging infrastructure forecast that defines how many stations will be on the ground. Again, I'm going to share with you a few slides on that. And we are now going deeper into the analysis, providing information to the subnational level, and with the aim of attaching the near future supply chain and cost and revenue analysis also on the infrastructure side very soon. And of course, we also have our team, a dedicated team that helps our clients on defining where the station should be. So the planning solution team with the advisory division with a kind of holistic approach on providing support to our clients. But let me move to the contents now, and let me start with consumer. And the sentiment of consumer is probably one of the most important elements for most of you sitting here today. S&P Global runs every year a consumer survey across 8 countries in the world, covering more or less 8,000 respondents. And the intention of the consumer survey is to collect the sentiment of consumers when it comes to the big revolution into the automotive industry. And of course, the big revolutions are probably the 4 listed down there. So the autonomous driving, the connected car, the broader electrification impact, which also includes, of course, the charging aspect, as well as the user interface. And this information is available for clients, so we have many clients buying that regularly, and this is also used, let's say, as a kind of data feed for us to shape out the future of our technological roadmap. And one of the first questions we used to pose to the clients is very basic and refers to the willingness of purchasing an electric vehicle. We started the consumer survey, we kicked off the consumer survey in 2019, so it's the fourth year now. And now we are in a lucky position of comparing the results. And if we stick on the left side, we can see how the situation changed over the years, especially in 2021, where the openness of consumers towards the technology was increasingly steeply. And after the 2021, we can see that there is a kind of drop. And one of the most important messages is that the 2023, which was perhaps supposed to be a year of consolidation for the consumers, is effectively going down in terms of openness from consumers. But probably the most interesting portion of the slide is the chart on the right side. We have the top 3 reasons for buying and not buying an electric vehicle. And when we stick on the purple ones, of course, I think every one of us can agree on the fact that fuel saving, environment benefit, and performance are key drivers for moving towards electric vehicles. But the most interesting message is that if we move on the reason for not buying electric vehicles, we can see that 2 out of 3 of these reasons refers to the charging infrastructure, which is a very important message that we have to bear in mind when we talk about charging infrastructure and charging in general. The other key message I want to share with you is back in 2019, I clearly remember that one of the 3 reasons was the range. And now this is no longer part of the consumer resistance. This means that the range anxiety, the well-known range anxiety, seems to be no longer an issue for most of the consumers when it comes to electrification in general. The second topic refers specifically to the infrastructure topic, and the question was, do you feel the infrastructure is sufficient for your needs? And I think we can draw 2 conclusions from the slide here. We have 4 cakes, basically. 2 refers to people exposed to the technology, so current owner and repeat owner. These are people, these are guys technically still using or that have used the technology in the past, still enjoying the technology, and you can see that in this case, about 50% of consumers are fine with the infrastructure in general. How much, is the 50% enough? I don't know. That's one of the read that every one of us can do of that. But the most interesting read is if we move in the other 2 cases in the second bucket, which refers to the past owner, so someone that has abandoned the technology and intender, then the percentage drops in average of 30-35%, with intender to 21%, which I think is a very low response in terms of acceptance of the existing infrastructure. A third question, and I have no thousands, okay? It's just 4 or 5. The fourth question is about the acceptable, it's very connected to charging. The first one is about the acceptable charging and the acceptable minimum range. I think I was also very surprised about the response, honestly, because if you look at the 2 charts, it seems that what we are offering today is enough for most of the consumers. And this effectively caught my attention when it comes to the charging time, because if you look at the bar chart, basically the major respondents are in the range between between 10 minutes and 1 hour, which is technically the capability of charging that you have today. Of course, there is also a chunk of respondents moving in the other sections, but this gives us a good indication. And the other charts is somehow supporting us on the range anxiety topic, because as we said in the beginning, this is as it was in the first generation of electric vehicles. The range anxiety is no more a concern for most of the consumer. Because most of them recognize the value of having a range which is actually lower than the range that is expected with an internal combustion vehicle. The last slide is probably also very interesting, because the question was posed in a manner that was the level of agreement according to the statements. The statements on the left was about maturity and the readiness of the technology in terms of electrification. And again, we can see what we have seen in the previous slides. Over the last 4 years, there has been a change in terms of confidence from consumers. And again, what is interesting is that the 2023, which is of course the closer year, and after many years of advancement into the technology, we still have a drop in terms of acceptance from the consumers. It's true that there are some messaging in terms of, for example, development into the solid-state battery not coming yet, as well as the reliance on certain aspects such as the rare earth materials into electric motor are still messages that are continued passed to the consumers, so the perception of having a long way in front of them is still there. And this is somehow also reflected into the right-hand side. If we stick on the first question, I'm waiting until electric vehicle technology improves. If you look at blue bar, the dark blue bar over there, you can see that 62% of consumers were in a sort of agreement with the statement. So there is a kind of very good chunk of consumers that are still waiting before moving to the technology because they feel that it's not really enough. That's a consumer angle. I think it was very, very interesting, and I think there are a lot of data that you can digest, and I mean, I'm happy to answer questions later or in the next days. But I would like now to give you a bit of understanding on what we see in the market, which is the vacant operation. Vacant operation means all the vehicles that will be on the road in a given horizon, specifically over the next 12 years, 10 years. And this refers to what we call passenger vehicle market and light commercial market. We are talking about vehicles up to the 6 tons. Okay, that's a good premise we have to do. And this is also a product that we offer to our clients. It covers more than 60 countries in the world and defines more than 40 attributes. What does it mean? If you want to know the platform program, the SLP, the EOP of the vehicle, then that's an information that you can get. So it's very granular, goes to the nameplate level, and provides you an understanding of the next 12 years current plus 11 years of forecast, and covers the major domains or the most interesting domain at the moment. So in terms of electrification, so you have information about batteries, so which type of chemistry into the anode and cathode, which type of electric motors, induction machine or permanent magnet motor, and all the information about charging. Again, how fast can I charge, or how fast is my car allowing me to charge when I will be at the DC charging station. In general, this product offers more than 100 attributes. But let me go into the data. And let's start with a kind of overview about how the electrification will impact the market. Talking about the vacant operation forecast, we are expecting that over the next decade, so until 2033, about 30–35% of the market will have an electrification degree. We call it alternative propulsion vehicles, or XEVs. So this covers basically the entire range of electric vehicles, from pure electric vehicles to mild hybrid. And of course, we are expecting a market that is going to achieve 0.6 billion of vehicles on the road by 2030. And if we look at the cake on the right, we can see how these 0.6 billion will be represented by propulsion system design, so which type of fuel will be used on the car. We can see that more than 50% will belong to electric vehicles, which is a good sign of, let's say, speeding up in terms of electrification, importantly. But we can also see that the remaining part, more than 30%, will still belong to hybrid and mild hybrid solution, with, let's say, minimal role played by the plug-in. And I'm sure I'm anticipating one of the questions that will come from the audience. We are also covering the fuel cell technology. And if you have as you can see, or you cannot see from the cake, we are not very optimistic on having fuel cell technology on the passenger vehicle market. That's why it's very negligible part into the segmentation. Of course, the situation changes when we move from region to another region, and I thought that bringing the 3 major regions in terms of electric vehicles would have been a kind of good comparison. And we can see that at the first glance we can draw some conclusion. The first one is that while North America and Europe are going to have a sort of similar trend in terms of eliminating or decommissioning the internal combustion vehicles, the dark gray and light gray curves into the charts, China will speed up in this process, and by 2033 the pure electric vehicle will catch up with internal combustion vehicles on the Chinese market. If we stick on Europe and North America, again, we can see some differences. For example, we can see the role played up by the plug-in vehicles, which is much higher in Europe, and it's going to be much higher in Europe than North America, where in return we have a higher presence of hybrid solution if compared with Europe. So, general trend, which is towards electrification with some declination based on the individual regions, of course. And then we briefly discussed yesterday about a couple of points. First one was the increase of battery and the need of having a C-rate more sustainable to fulfill the requirement of vehicles. So what's our view in terms of battery capacity? Again, we are talking about alternative propulsion vehicle, which includes all the electrified, not just electric vehicles. The market as of now is represented by for about 80% of battery in the range of 0 to 50 kilowatt hour, and this covers about 80% of the market. If we move along the years until 2033, we can appreciate how this trend is going to move. It's going to move up, of course, with more than 40% of the market that will be above 50 kilowatt hour in terms of battery capacity. And maybe we can focus on the purple area. We can see that it's going to grow importantly and getting a significant market share by 2033 with vehicles that keep between 100 and 150, sorry, the light green, 100 and 150 kilowatt hour of battery on the roads. So this, of course, as I briefly said, I mean, this increase in terms of battery will require a kind of adjustment into the charging specs of the vehicles. And this is going to have an impact also in both, either in AC and the DC side. When it comes to the AC side, the major driver, of course, there might be major drivers as a limitation, but the onboard charger is technically the major driver of the peak power achievable by the vehicle. And I thought that this distribution across the different segments of cars would be beneficial to understand a bit the trend. Again, I can give you maybe my read of that, and again, we can have different conclusions. The first one, which might be clearly visible in the slide, is that we have two types of onboard charger in terms of range powers that are going to dominate the market. These are represented by the dark blue. Okay, dark blue seems like a joke because a lot of blue. Is represented by mainly the range between 6 and 11 kilowatt. If we look at the chart across the board, this is going to be is going to take more than 60-70% of market share over the next few years. So that's where we are expecting to be the market over the next decade. And of course, there are some declinations passing from one chart to the other one. The first one is there are some declination. For example, we can see that while the AB segment will be still importantly related to the 6 kilowatt peak, the segment towards ENF will be mainly more towards 11 kilowatt, with the 22 somehow substituting the presence of 6 kilowatt peak power. Of course, the bigger the battery, the higher will be the onboard charger installed into the car as a conventional by default. There are a couple of other trends that are, again, cross-domain, cross-segment that I would like to share with you. The first one is down there, is the presence of the 3 kilowatt. This has been for the ones of you being in industry since years, you can clearly recall that this has been, especially for the first generation of vehicles, the major standard, the 3 kilowatt as onboard charger. As we can see from the chart, this is gonna disappear, or is gonna lose market share year on year. And by 2030, we are expecting that very few vehicles, maybe just very small BEVs or city cars, will maintain such a power into the onboard charger. And the other interesting side is the gray bar over there, mainly visible into the ABS segment. This refers to the 43 kilowatt onboard charger. Again, if we go back in the history, we do remember some European brands adopting such a solution. So rather than moving to the DC, there was like kind of decision of moving higher into the onboard charger. Again, that's a kind of trend that we are not foreseeing for the next years, and we will move to a different power output. The other aspect is about the DC charging capability. And as you may know, the DC charging, one of the major drivers of having higher power rate in DC is driven by the architectural in which the vehicle will be built. So vehicle built on high voltage application, let's assume 650 volt plus, will be more capable of achieving higher power, as it has been proved by the Porsche Taycan, for example. In our view, while the high voltage application is kind of a niche element as of now, mainly driven by few brands like Volkswagen, General Motors, and Hyundai, over the next 10 years will increase its presence with more or less 150 million and a market share in around 10%, moving in that direction, mainly driven by the eGMP platform of Hyundai. Okay, and this is going to increase the capacity of vehicles of charging faster. What does it mean? Of course, if you look at the cake, we are going to have more vehicles charging quicker. But it's interesting to see that this portion of vehicles charging really quick is going to remain still a portion of the market. Let me just give you can I still have 1 minute? 1 minute, okay, sorry for that. Okay, just very quick, we talk about battery swapping. There are two technologies emerging. One is the battery swapping wireless charging. Some of them have a regional connection. That's a case of battery swapping. We can see that most of the market that is going to grow will still remain China dependent, and this is related to the yellow bar there. Some other technologies like wireless charging will also pop up in the market. But as you can see from the left and right side, it's going to lose the regional connection, moving more into the vehicle segment. So premium vehicles will be more wireless charging capable. Okay, I can be very quick. Just few numbers you can digest and reach out to me if you want to have any question. That's the situation of the charging station today, especially looking at the domestic. We have 8 million of charging stations installed and about 2.5 million into the public domain. In 2030, we are expecting that the penetration rate will be around 20% of chargeable vehicles, 60 million of domestic stations expected, and more than 70 million of stations are in the public domain, AC and DC. Okay, I can skip the conclusion because you know very well. Thank you very much for your attention, and happy to answer all the questions.
I'm so sorry, Claudia, but we have to stay on time. And you get a market research guy to start talking about all these details because it's all about the data and all about the numbers and all about the details. But yeah, so if you do have more questions, just approach him afterwards. But why don't we say one question, just one question from an audience, perhaps, in the room? Or did somebody send any via the app?
I think it was too much.
Okay, yep, we have one that was sent in via the app. Then we'll take a look at that. So are the range anxiety research figures that you mentioned on global, US, or European level?
Yeah, these are global. Very quick. Yeah, we have, of course, we have the breakdown for the region, but the data presented are globally, yeah, as a global summary.
Okay, so that was a simple question, a straightforward one, but we're going to have to leave it there. Claudio, thank you so very much indeed.
Thank you very much.
Many thanks. And if you have more questions, just approach him. All right, thank you.